Hello, and mine's Jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and that's what you're wearing to this video? Alright, didn't know we were slumming it, but alright. But, do me a favor and hit that like button or the terrorists win, and on our last live stream we went in on, the Ozark Trail Valor Axis Lock. I threw that a little too hard. But, let's take a look at what we're holding, because it'll bother you if I don't, and you know I'm too kind to you. So, first things first and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We got aluminum scales, a reversible pocket clip. We got an axis lock and a thumb stud. Let's flick the stud. And give or take 3 1/4 inches of 14C 28-inch steel. Okay, now that the preamble is out of the way, I carried this thing for a week, did not like it. All right, did not like it. Out of the box, the action was so tight and jacked up that I had to spend time breaking it in. I did what I don't like doing. I oiled it to get it loosened up a little bit. I tuned the pivot screw. The factory edge was absolute garbage, and the pivot screw kept backing out. So I had to do something I don't like doing. I got the thread locker out, and I thread locked the pivot screw so I wouldn't lose it because it was loosening up that fast. And something that's interesting, I've had conversations, or at least read comments on the last couple videos I did on this thing. All right, some guys are saying they got no Loctite on theirs, and then some people are saying they got Loctite on theirs. Same model knife. That seems to be par for the course with Ozark Trail. I don't know why they thread lock some and not others. And even then, some guys that got theirs in the blister pack said they had thread lock on theirs, and some guys that got theirs in the box said they got thread locker, and then guys that got the same packaging said they didn't get thread locker. Why? To quote a friend of mine, porque, it's just unfortunate. But we did our cardboard slayer after that. And when we started on this thing, the factory edge was absolute trash. I did something else I don't like doing. I stropped it to get rid of a potential burr before we started. And I stropped it and brought it down to a 288 on the sharpness tester. That is halfway to devastated. That is absolutely terrible. Not good whatsoever. But we started at the 288. And then after 45 minutes... After 45 minutes, we got a 496 back here, and then towards the center, we got a 509. That is not good. We got a couple more minutes out of it, and the cuts started looking like absolute teetotal trash, so we sharpened it. But before we go over the sharpening, let's go out to the car hole, and I'll show you the pile of cardboard we got off the factory edge. Here you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the car hole. Now let's take a look at the pile of cardboard we got off of the Ozark Trail Valor's factory edge. That is tiny. That is next to nothing. It was so bad. Oh my God. Let's go back to the table. All right, so you guys saw that. That pile was tiny. That was absolutely pathetic. I can't remember the last time we have seen a pile that small, and I don't think we've seen one that small since we started showing the pile of cardboard after the fact during these videos. That was about 3CR13 performance, maybe a little bit worse. But, we sharpened it after that, and we got it down to a 192. That 192 is a bad number. I put a lot of time and effort into sharpening this thing. We hogged off a ton of material laying that bevel back that far. We really, really went for it. And for it to pull a 192 after that and stropping it, because the first time we stropped it, we got up over 200 by a little bit. The second stropping brought it down to 192. I was very, very upset with the amount of time that I spent to get that. And I hucked this thing across the room. I did a no-spin throw, and I stuck it in the wall of cardboard about 5 feet away from me. And it was a good throw, but normally I won't throw a knife across the room because, well, extremely danger. But went ahead and pulled it back out of the wall of cardboard after sitting there for a minute and thinking about my life choices. And we started back up again. And off of that 192, after an hour, we got a 535 back here in the back center, and then we got a 416 out front and a 488 towards the center right here. Terrible edge wear. And then after 30 minutes, the first test we pulled back here at the 535 was a 635. Absolutely god-awful. This is, again, around 3CR13 performance. Not good. Now let's go out to the car hole, and I'll show you the pile post-sharpening. Here you go. All right, welcome back once again to the car hole, and this is what happened after we sharpened it. All right, this is still a very, very tiny pile of cardboard. There's more in there than it looks like because it's stacked very neatly right now because I got to put it back in the box. But that's still very, very little. It's like maybe 1.5 times what we got off of the factory edge, if that. But yeah, my God, let's go back to the table. All right, so you guys saw that. We got maybe 1.33 times more cardboard than we got off of the factory edge. That was absolutely terrible performance. Like I said, that is like in line with 3CR13. Now, that being said, it seems like the blade is not 100% unheat treated because, we've had D2 with a terrible heat treatment last about 30 minutes on the factory edge and the second edge. This did a bit better than the bad D2 that we've seen, but it's in line with 3CR13, not 14C28N. It did really, really badly. And the ergonomics, oh, sweet baby Jesus of Nazareth, holy monkey. So, this right here, the edges of the steel liners are not chamfered. Ooh, there's that $5 word again, and I gave it to you for free. But they're not chamfered, and it gave me a massive blister. I mean massive, just from holding it like this and doing all the push cuts and the pressure. I have had some knives hurt before, but there's only been a couple that gave me blisters. And it was right up under the callus right here, like it got under the callus and put the blister under the callus. And I'd press down like this and see a huge blister bulge out of the side. It got bad enough that I had to go upstairs and get a Band-Aid and put the padded part right here just to give me some protection so we could finish this off. Because, I mean, we were about an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes into the grand total of the cutting. And that blister started showing up, and it hurt so, so bad. Like, it hurt so bad, you guys. So, like, it's rare that I have to protect my hand from a knife, but it really did that. So, it was a bad experience overall. It did terrible. But, it is what it is. That's what happened. Now, I will restate this in case you haven't seen the last video I did on this. I do not recommend getting one of these. Spend a few extra bucks on a Civivi. They should have the mini Praxis at Walmart next to these things. Buy that instead. Don't buy one of these. Now, one of the biggest things contributing to that statement, all right, this example did terrible. All right, and Ozark Trail's quality control is all over the map. Okay, just like some guys getting thread locker and some guys not getting thread locker on the pivot screw. Other guys that I have talked to about this and other guys that I've seen in the comments on past videos have said their action was great, the edge was sharp, they got the edge retention they wanted for the tasks they were doing. But then you got examples like mine, and other guys have had examples like this where, yeah, it was terrible out of the box and it took some work to make it function well. But all that can't compensate for the edge retention. You can't do a heat treatment on something like you can't redo the heat treatment at home. You're just kind of stuck with what you get. And what I got was not good. And the guys that are going to buy this are either guys like me, all right, collectors that are buying it for the novelty, or guys that don't know better. Guys that don't know that Ozark Trail's quality control is bad. They just see a $20 access lock and they're like, oh, wow, I'm getting this. And so if you get lucky, it'll serve you well, no major issues. And if you don't get lucky, you'll get one of these donkeys. Now, back in the day, before I really got into collecting and got into knives the way I am now, this thing might have treated me okay and took care of me for a while. And because I would carry a dull knife and keep cutting with it and cutting with it and cutting with it because I didn't know how to sharpen and I didn't have the tools to sharpen. I would take something to a bench grinder with a gray stone, zip it across there, and then strop it by cutting a piece of wood until it cut cleanly-ish. And it worked great for outdoor stuff because it was such a jagged edge. The work that I was doing with it worked great. And then I was like, I'm taking a file. I sharpened my knives on a file, and I made it work. The edge was a lot better. It wasn't like the kind of edge you can get now off of stones or a fixed angle system. But I would carry those things and keep them super dull because I didn't know how to sharpen. But just don't buy one of these. Just get the mini Praxis. We are going to compare this to the Elevation shortly here. You're going to have a video coming out soon about that for an apples to apples comparison. But yeah, like it just, yeah, so disappointed. Like I am even more not impressed than I was to begin with. So I can't think of a lot else to add about this before I'm holding y'all hostage. So all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so, so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got live streams, regular videos. There's plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about this thing. You know, we heard about it on the last video, but guys have picked these up since then. Let me know how yours is taking care of you. All right, let's get a feel for the QC and the spread that you get on good and bad experiences. But all that being said, y'all have a nice day.